It's alive! It's alive!
Otherworldlyculture.com presents Dead On Movie Reviews.
Salutations and mutilations, you're listening to Otherworldly Culture presents Dead On Movie Reviews. Tonight, we will present horror movie reviews and lively debate here on Otherworldlyculture.com and on future select Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can join our live chat at that time by clicking on the live shows link on Otherworldlyculture.com, the website, or you can come out and join us on Twitch, where twitch.tv/otherworldlyculture. I'm your host, Tim Kretschmann, coming to you from the land of lakes and landfills, beautiful and smelly Muskego, Wisconsin. It's my honor to introduce tonight's Faculty of Fear. And that didn't work either. My goodness. Okay, come on. There we go. So we're going to start with Adam Holtzapfel. He is our hardcore otherworldly culture columnist, and he won't brag, but he is, in fact, the Taco King. Adam will slice and dice twice his film feast and menu of madness for us on tonight's celluloid entry to Cellulite. Hello, Adam.
Hey, Tim. How's it going?
Really good. And next we're going to be introducing Rich, rambling up from his pit in Pittsburgh, the purveyor of the dark with a healthy helping of snark. He ain't great, but he is full of hate. He's the killer clown of getting down, a speedy freak that loves to speak and streak. He is smoking a stogie and eating a hoagie, stalking the small in the wild, and pulling down the burlesque with a quest. He's our professor of meatology. He's called the Meat, and half the sandwich that is Horror Realm Radio. He is Rich Dalzatto.
Hello.
Always good to see you, Rich. Well, not see you. That would defeat the purpose. But always good to hear from you, I guess.
I'm always happy to be heard.
And we did advertise that Mike was going to be on the show tonight. Mike, unfortunately, is not able to join us, but he's here in his thoughts and deeds. So he is monitoring us closely, so nobody is allowed to talk about him. Everybody understand the rules. Then we'll get started. Let's start with Adam. Adam, what have you been watching?
I had watched 1986's Deadtime Stories. It's an anthology horror film, kind of a forgotten one because it was sandwiched between 1985's Cat's Eye and 1987's Creepshow 2.
Okay.
Film clocks in at around an hour and a half. It's 3 tales. The first revolves around 3 witches trying to bring their sister back to life.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have kind of a riff on Red Riding Hood for the second tale, and Goldilocks and the 3 Bears for the third tale, with the wraparound story kind of being a riff on The Boy Who Cried Wolf.
Right, so they're all fairy tales. We actually showed this on one of our OWC Prime cuts. It is out on Amazon Prime right now. I'm sure you saw it on Shudder.
No, on Tubi.
Okay. Yeah,
Actually,
it's also on
yeah,
Tubi. Okay, so it's free. You can get it anywhere then.
yeah, it's free on Tubi or on Prime if you have it.
Yeah.
Um, the two biggest names that starred in this are Scott Valentine, whose big break was Nick on Family Ties,
Right.
then Melissa Leo, who's done films like The Fighter and several other credits under her name.
And that's
Um,
virtually it, though, right? I mean, most of the people
yeah,
in this made this movie and disappeared quietly into the abyss.
yeah, they went silently into that good night after making this film. It was directed and written by Jeffrey Dahmer. He had co-directed The Nest and did some additional crew work on Friday the 13th Part 2.
Hmm.
But other than that, I don't think anyone's really heard from him since this movie came out. So this is one of those kind of obscure anthologies that it's got the iconic VHS cover, and
Yes.
I remember seeing it as a kid, and it has not aged well. It felt like the first story was trying to be a standalone film, and
Hmm.
then they either ran out of money or the studio said, "Hey, we're not releasing it,"
Now,
and
that's
got
actually, Adam, that's interesting to say that. That's actually what happened with the movie.
nice.
They were planning to make that first story was supposed to be a movie in itself. And I'm not quite sure what the reasoning was, but it was prior to production that they decided to go into an anthology. It wasn't like they had already shot so much and decided, okay, let's do something else. Um, but the story runs out of gas even halfway through it, and it doesn't have a very long runtime.
Yeah, and it feels like that first one is literally 45 minutes long, even though I think it's somewhere more in the 25-30 minute
Oh
range.
no, it takes frickin' forever. It's about 3
Yeah,
hours long. It takes
yeah,
forever.
it is. And like the last two stories are real short, so they
Yeah.
crammed a lot into those, but that first one's like pulling teeth.
Yeah, it didn't really have much of a story to tell. You know,
No, and
they all had relatively short, punchline, and here you go. But that first one just took much longer to get there.
yeah, and it didn't really fit the fairy tale feel or inspiration of the other three. Well, the wraparound and the other two, other than there's witches involved. So it definitely felt out of place in the anthology as well.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
of the three, there's always, with an anthology, I guess four because there's the wraparound story. What was your favorite of the stories?
I I mean, I don't really have a favorite. Like, as a whole, it's okay to kill an hour and a half and maybe relive something you saw in your childhood for nostalgia's sake. But to pick it apart, there's not really a strong entry in this.
No, I agree. I agree. Of the three, I think the last one was the only one that actually engaged me. It was cheesy as hell, but at least I got a giggle out of it once in a while, which was the Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Yeah,
The Little Red Riding Hood, I mean, it's Little Red Riding Hood, and oh, it's a werewolf. Oh, okay. And
yeah,
he's kind of a wolf anyways, chasing chicks. Well, okay. That was so on the nose. At least Goldilocks and the Three Bears, they took some real liberties there,
yeah,
while
and
still
they
delivering the story.
yeah, and they kind of put a different twist on the Goldilocks character, which was was fun to see. There's some good effects, stuff like that, but overall
When
was
was there a good effect in this movie? I don't
oh
recall
god,
any good effects.
I think it was one of the parts during the first story where they reanimated the dead witch.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
like
It might be a
yeah,
bit of a
like
stretch for me, but
yeah,
I thought the
it's kind
makeup
of
wasn't bad in that first section. The makeup wasn't bad.
yeah, like
Um,
the effects for the witch reanimation and the makeup wasn't bad for that first story,
yeah.
but overall this is kind of one of those you watch once and forget
Well,
about it film.
first of all, I watched it, basically alone with with our little watch party, but you don't want to watch this thing alone. It's so terrible. You want somebody where you can lean over and go, "Oh my god, do you believe they did that?" I mean, it's one of those movies that I think would be much more fun to watch with others and get a
Yeah,
laugh out of it. You know.
yeah, I definitely agree. I'd watch this alone because
Ugh.
I chose to, and
Right.
yeah, it's definitely MST3K worthy
Yeah.
if you want to go that route. And one thing I did want to touch on, Ed French had done the special effects. He's actually gone on to do like makeup work for Terminator 2, some of the
Oh wow.
Star Trek films. I think he's been the one to have the most successful career after this. He did makeup work on the Preacher TV series, so he's someone that's still working in the industry right now.
Yeah, this definitely isn't a movie that you go, "Hey, I worked on Deadtime Stories." Nobody, "Oh, let me open the door for you." That's
Yeah.
not going to happen with this thing.
Right, yeah, it's a turd in a punch bowl.
Okay. Having said that, sounds like it's time for us to get to the grading.
Yeah, I'd give this a D minus. Like it's not the worst I've seen, it's not the best. I think if I watched it with a group and we were all kind of riffing on it, I could give it
Yeah,
a higher grade, but it is what it is.
I would give it a D just because I wasn't, at least in the second half of the movie, I wasn't bored. The first
Yeah,
half, that first story, it drags, but I wasn't actually bored. I was just like, where is this going? And then the answer was nowhere, you know. But
yeah, and I mean you can telegraph it and get to where it's going like 10
oh
minutes
yeah,
into the story.
yeah.
So,
All right. Well, I want to remind everybody that the chat room is open. If you're watching this live on Twitch, you can get into that chat room, and we'd love to hear from you. And we are now going to move things over to Rich. Rich, what have you been watching?
Well, Tim, I went deep into the archives of time for this movie.
Has anybody heard of the film that you're about to talk about?
I'm not sure. It's 1968's Night of the Living Dead.
Oh,
Have you heard of it?
that's a deep cut. I don't think I've heard of this film.
Yeah, I thought, why not review Night of the Living Dead since I watch this movie once a week?
Hey, isn't that to stay in the city of Pittsburgh? Don't they require you to watch it at least once a week?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I
On
learn
holidays, you can
stuff.
watch
You
Dawn of the
guys
Dead
tell me
instead.
stuff. I listen.
Yes, it's a requirement that you need to be a Steelers fan, and you have to speak like you're a moron, and now you're a true Pittsburgher.
Oh.
well, guess I better move back to Ohio then.
No,
Don't
I
get me
think
started
you're
on
I think
Ohio.
you're set. You're set, Adam.
I'm not a Steelers fan, so yeah.
But no, Night of the Living Dead. Obviously, I would hope that everybody that listens to our show watches it, or listens to our shows watch this movie.
Sure.
I'm not going to bring anything new to it with this review. So,
And I think this movie, if anybody hasn't seen it yet, we're going to spoil this because virtually everybody that listens to this show has seen it. So
this is more of a shout out of love to George Romero and Night of the Living Dead.
yeah,
Of course, filmed in Evans City, which is just north of the city of Pittsburgh, and this was independent film at its finest. Black and white, which I have seen the colorized version. Have you seen that?
no, I've never seen it, and I don't know that I would want to.
How about you?
I've seen one colorized version, and it's like the one from the 90s where they added extra scenes in for like the 30th anniversary or some shit.
Yeah, that's the one I've seen as well. And colorizing, I don't like colorizing in general, and this is really not a movie to colorize. You know, one of the beauties of what they did on a low budget was, you know, they created blood with things that weren't blood, like many people do, but you know, they didn't have to worry about color. And,
Right.
Well, it loses some of the grittiness too when you colorize it. Like, it's not as effective.
No, it kills the shadowing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, the colorized version I would steer away from. But anyway.
Yeah, you know what else with the black and white? When you're watching the beginning, particularly right now, or looking at the scene, they're coming to get you, Barbara. It feels like it's a Universal monster movie. And
it does.
As it moves on, you're like, wait a minute, they're doing things Universal would never do. What's going on here? I think the black and white helps with kind of throwing you off, you know, early on.
I agree with you 100%. And, you know, again, you know, people have seen this movie, but I think the beauty of this is, and of course, if you haven't seen it, it is really ushers in the new era of zombies.
Yeah.
And you should have seen it by now.
Right.
I don't think I need to go over it. What I like about this film is that it is what a zombie movie should be. And at the end of it, your hero dies. There's hopelessness. That's what a zombie movie should be. I don't like some of these films at the end where you feel like that, okay, now they've survived this and they're going to get on with their lives and maybe the world will even come back a little bit.
You know what? I would say it does the hopelessness better than any other horror movie I know.
I agree.
Because it's wrapped in irony. You know, as it's going, it gives you like a touch of, hey, maybe you might survive this, and like, yeah, screw you, you're done. I'm thinking of the redo they did of Dawn of the Dead, where they went in the motorboat and, okay, we're going to hang out in an island and all that. And, you know, at the end, they kind of show, okay, they're still in trouble. But it didn't feel, this just felt bleak and hopeless the way this film finishes.
Well, and every time they had hope, like, oh, there's a gas pump and we finally can unlock the gas pump, and then boom, everything blows up.
Right.
I love that they get their hopes up often in this movie, and it's all torn away. Yeah. Really, I think realistic to what probably would happen in those situations.
Well, and I think more than a lot of these movies, there's always a jerk, right? Like in that Dawn of the Dead, you had Ty Burrell, who knew was going to be America's sweetheart in Modern Family later on, but he was kind of jerk. You know, I still laugh every time I think about that. You know, the guy that is, I'll say, the antagonist of it, that isn't the zombie, the stuff he's saying isn't completely insane. He's got some, you know, valid ideas. And in fact, they kind of resort to his ideas to survive. So,
Well,
you know,
exactly.
it isn't like, oh, this guy's just a jerk. It's like, no, he's a reasonable but very upset individual, you know. And I think what I liked with this movie too is I think when they put this together, they must have had a list of what's all taboo. What should we all do that is just wrong? So cannibalism was up on that list. Uh, Killing your child, killing your parents was on that list. They had the interracial thing going on. It just seemed like they had a group of things that they wanted to make sure that they represented in this movie.
I agree with you, and I think what I liked about that, dynamic between um, Cooper and Dwayne Jones, Ben, is they
Okay.
both were leaders and kind of alpha males when it comes down to it. And
Right.
like you said, approaches were different. And I was curious, would you guys have been basement guys or not basement guys?
I probably would have been non-basement just because you can see what's going on from the upper levels.
Yeah, your gut's getting torn out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean, if you're gonna die anyway, you can at least try and fight them off than holding yourself in.
I honestly, I'm probably the guy that goes out there, blows my brains out, and joins the party.
Uh,
I would be like, yeah, fuck this. This seems like a lot of effort.
The one reason I'm always curious on what people would do in that case, this was the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. These people thought the government and the military and was going to come and save and take care of this.
Right.
So why is waiting in the basement such a bad option at that point when they're busting through windows and boards you've put up on the windows and
Well,
like
they thought, in the TV interstitials that they kept showing, there were like shelters and that sort of thing going on.
right.
You know, I the only thing I would probably say I would want to keep that first floor for would be that your radio and television reception is better.
That's a good point, especially back in that time.
Oh, even today, I have my parents have a television in the basement that unless I run an antenna wire up, it isn't going to get anything down there. So that would probably be the main reason that I would say, okay, let's go through the effort. But the bad side to that is that the zombies see something moving in there. And that's
Right.
not good. But okay, I always wondered about that too. Could they like sniff them out? Because just because they're moving, and as the ending of the movie kind of emphasizes, just because they're moving, all the dead people are moving. So you don't know if that's living or dead.
Right.
So they must smell them or something.
Well, here's another question for you then, and I know this isn't a review because we've all seen it, so I was just more curious to talk to you guys about the movie,
Yeah.
and then I'll give you my grade. Why do they ignore the second floor so much? Why not move the necessities up there, and you just have a staircase to close off? Why do you stay on a floor that has 25 windows and a door or two doors?
I think it's if you have to flee and you see an opening, if you jump out a window on the second floor, you're going to bust both of your legs and just eat shit and die.
You don't think there's rope? There was rope in that basement or somewhere in that house? That seemed like a house with rope to me.
I mean, there could be, but based on the information we have, I'm going to say there wasn't.
I don't know. I agree. The second floor is completely ignored in the movie.
And that's with a lot of zombie situations. It seems like it's ignored because, you could probably hunker down for quite a while, and it's not an exciting movie. So they have to keep
actually,
you
Rich,
have weakness.
I have a soundbite of John Russo as he was writing the script here.
Oh,
Let's see.
great news.
I know what we're doing. I just went and shot movie.
There it is. So
Uh,
I think it may not have been overthought in some cases. Honestly, the movie moves at a good pace considering they're stuck in that farmhouse,
yes.
and you don't really sit there and go, you think this because you've seen the movie approximately 1,000 times, but the first dozen times you're watching this, you're not like, well, why aren't they going up on the second floor? You just kind of go, okay.
I agree with. Yeah.
It seems to be between the first floor and the second floor, and the basement. I think if you go up on the second floor and they break in, you're completely screwed. Where with the basement, I don't know that the basement is better than the second floor.
I think you have a fighting chance from the second floor. In the basement, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I just, again, not really an official review.
I think that's a very open note. Watching the little clips that we have going here.
Yeah.
It's a very open stairwell. It would be hard to block off.
I think they had the tools to break off the stairs, to be honest with you, the upper stairs.
The more I think about it, I think I would be a first floor guy because not only the radio and TV reception, but you got a kitchen. And the ability to perhaps keep food at least a little bit better.
Was it a gas stove or an electric stove, I wonder?
I think it's gas, if I remember.
I would think gas for a farmhouse.
I should know that, and I can't remember. Interesting. But
I guess you'll have to watch it again, Rich.
I will be this Saturday.
Now, have you ever watched the riff tracks of this movie?
No, I'm not a huge fan of that type of humor to begin with, because we've established my sense of humor is horrible, and it is, in my opinion, too good of a film to make fun of anything.
I am so glad to hear you say that, because they had riff tracks back when movie theaters were still open. They did a riff tracks on Halloween, and it was this. And I went in and I'm like, how are they going to riff tracks that movie? Because it's a freaking awesome movie. And to me, everything kind of fell flat because it was an awesome movie. And I know there's a riff tracks of Jaws, and someday I'm going to subject myself to it. But I have a feeling I'm going to have a lot of the same feeling of, why are you taking on a good movie? And it's not like there isn't enough bad movies. Adam just had one that is ready to go.
Right.
At the beginning of the show. So I don't understand why they do that.
I agree with you. Now, one last question for you guys, and then, because I know I've taken dead on movie reviews and destroyed the heart of it by just having
that's what you do. That's how you come on the show.
But obviously, this movie means a lot to me, and I watch it quite a bit. I know horror fans in general tend to love this film, but being people who aren't from the Western Pennsylvania area, does it rank high with you, or is it just like, hey, it's another good horror film? Because, like, for me, it'll always be a top 3 horror film.
Okay, this is where I am with this movie. I think this is the best of the zombie movies, but I am so over zombies at this point that I don't know that I would thread this one up too quickly. But I do recognize that this is the best one. I do think if you're going to call yourself a horror movie fan and you're not a fan of this movie, I would really want to have that discussion and say why. Because I think it's one of the perfect little horror movies. It's got a lot of good scares. It is relentless. The pacing is decent. It's just a really good movie all around.
I I'd have to say it ranks high for me. If I always lean more towards Dawn of the Dead in my top 10, the original.
Yeah.
But this would be top 20 for me easily, just because I saw it at a young age, and it's aged really well and held up.
I think
Like,
this movie's aged much better than the first Dawn of the Dead. I like Dawn of the Dead. I'm a big fan of Dawn of the Dead. But this movie, I think, is, when you use the term classic, this is one of them. It feels like, like I said, it almost feels like it's a Universal film. It feels like it was shot in the 40s, you know. But it has kind of a timeless message to it. Oh, and we do have an interaction, believe it or not, in our chat room. One of our chatters, I think that's Sandy, but I think this was the first movie that I ever saw, first horror movie. Thank goodness. I was about to say you have to see Snow White before you see this. The things that disturbed me most at around 8 years old were the ghoul eating the bug off the tree and the one juggling intestines. I got to be honest with you. I'm not sure I remember any intestine juggling.
I think it's a part where they're eating the liver or
See,
whatever.
I
It's like,
honestly, the first time I saw this, it was on USA Network. Like, and I was, I would say I was a teenager already by the time I saw this thing. And the cannibalism scenes, I was kind of like, okay, yeah. I think I had heard so much about it already, it didn't resonate with me as much. The little kid in the basement, that screwed me up. And the ending, and then the music right after, when they're doing those credits, that gives me a chill to this day. I'm actually starting to goose pimple up when I think about how that movie ends, and then they go to kind of a, what would you say, like a newsreel look.
Yes.
yeah.
That portion, that just chills me. It chills me.
Yeah, the newsreel look reminded me of like how you'd see in the way they'd portray theaters back in the day, showing like the news, the highlights of the day. That ending of the newsreel look just kind of had that feel to it.
Yeah. It is something.
I love the soundtrack. A lot of that was theremin. If you
Oh,
did
was
not
it?
know, yes.
Yeah,
Okay. That
Carl
makes sense.
Hardman, who played Henry Cooper, the guy from the basement, he
Yeah.
and his wife created a lot of that with the theremin.
yeah.
Anyway,
That's something. All right. Is it grading
I've
time?
wasted enough of this show. I'll give you a grade.
Okay, let's get out the report card. And I'm sure this is going to be like a C, somewhere in that range.
This movie is an A plus through and through.
All right. Adam, you want to throw your grade in there?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Rich. This is pretty much a flawless film. Like, it's a classic for a reason.
Yeah, I would give it an A plus too. Now, I guess the real question, since Mikey is in here, what do we think Mike would have given this movie?
I think he'd give an A, probably.
I think Mike would give it an A. There's an outside chance maybe he would find a reason to give it a B.
Yeah.
Just knowing how his mind works.
Yeah, I was about to say he is hypercritical sometimes.
And I don't think it would even be so much criticism that would influence his grade, so much as the older a movie
Right.
is and the more black and white a movie is, it tends to lose a letter grade with them.
All right. And by the way, we now have some more people in the chat room. Thank you for joining us tonight, Ben, and Sandy, and Steven, and, well, of course, and Adam. Adam, thanks for coming into our own chat room. That's great.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
All right. I guess it's my turn. Let me get this going. All right, everybody. The movie I hit, and come on, unbelievable. We got buttons doing things they're not supposed to do again. There we go. Unreal. Okay, so the movie I have is Stephen King's Silver Bullet from 1985. It is free for people with Amazon Prime. It's barely worth it. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to be giving this a rave review. I feel like this movie came out after The Howling and American Werewolf in London, and I think they didn't understand why those movies were popular. You also here's something I say a lot. Every time this movie is seen in a listing, when you do a search, it's Stephen King's Silver Bullet. They always make sure Stephen King is in there. And I feel like the movies where they really push that part, they know that they got a weaker entry of his stuff. And I feel this was something he must have wrote during his heavy cocaine days. But it's got some positive aspects to it. When I say that I feel like they missed the boat as to what you're looking for in a werewolf movie, it's in both The Howling and American Werewolf in London, they both featured really spectacular transformation scenes and fantastic makeup effects. This movie, that is the worst part of the movie by far. The story isn't all that bad, but the special effects are atrocious. I couldn't believe how bad it was. And I felt like this might have been the first time I saw it. But as I was watching it, I was like, if you've seen any Stephen King, you know who the werewolf's going to end up being. You know it right off the top. And I'm not going to spoil that in case somebody doesn't know it. But I'll just tell you, if you're a Stephen King fan, you're going to know who it is. It isn't going to take you any time at all to put that together. But I did feel that Corey Haim put in an excellent performance. In fact, I really have a hard time ripping on Corey Haim, any of his performances. I know a lot of people make fun of him as a child actor and all that, but his movie Lucas was fantastic. He was good in The Lost Boy. He put in a very solid performance in this movie. Gary Busey was being Gary Busey. And, you don't hire Gary Busey unless you want some Gary Busey, and they got both barrels of Gary Busey in this thing. So I thought they both put in great performances. Gene Tierney was in here. He was very good. Bill Smitrovich, who I'm a big fan of, he does primarily television, I would say, but he's done a great deal of stuff. He's good in this. The acting I thought was very good, but the story's pretty pedestrian. You see it coming, and this was mid-'80s. I wanted to see, the bubbling skin. I wanted to see a really great transformation scene. You didn't get that in this thing. They all but, panned the camera and brought it back, and okay, now he's in his suit, It just it really didn't resonate with me. Now, have you guys seen this movie?
Yeah, I have.
What was your thoughts on it?
I probably haven't seen this movie in about 30 years just because there's no need to revisit it.
There really isn't.
Yeah, like I remember liking it when I watched it. The
Mhm.
cast was good, but like you said, the transformation is just non-existent.
I
Um,
I don't get it
there's
because
been
if you're making a werewolf movie after American Werewolf in London, after The Howling, you know to sell that they were doing this movie, they had to say we're going to have a great transformation scene, right?
right,
They had
yeah,
to.
yeah,
They had to go in there and talk to the exec at the studio and say, "Give us a green light. I have the two things you want. I got Stephen King's name on here, and I got a werewolf movie, and those are super hot right now."
right. And you got Gary Busey, who had, I think just around that time did the Buddy Holly story, probably. So he was still on the rise
He was on the
before.
rise, but it wasn't Lethal Weapon yet. I think Lethal Weapon was what,
Right.
87 or something like that.
Yeah, so he was still finding his way, but
Yeah.
yeah, and there's been recent werewolf movies that have shown you can that less is more and done like good transformations with not having the budget that this probably
I
had.
yeah, I thought there was a decent budget behind this thing because it was it was well lit and all that good stuff. They hired actual actors, you know. Um, but I don't get it. I really don't understand why they didn't put more into the special effects on this thing because that is literally the weak link on this thing. It's just so bad. And you can tell they knew it was bad because they minimized the use of it.
Oh yeah, totally.
I just ugh. Now, Rich, have you ever seen this one?
I've seen this multiple times. Yes.
What,
Yeah,
what
I enjoy it.
you what?
I enjoy this film.
You do?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not American Werewolf in London or
No,
The Howling,
no.
but it's good '80s fun. And all the positives that you mentioned, I agree with. It's just a good movie to turn on and just kind of sit back and enjoy. It's not too deep.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. It's not too deep. I mean, there isn't much of a story there, really. It's pretty straight. There isn't a lot of veering off into weird tangents or anything like that. And unlike most Stephen King stories, it actually has a good ending. I like the ending to it. Um, but I just felt like the werewolf effect was so horrendously done. It detracted from the rest of the movie because I do think there were good story elements, good acting, good thing going on between Corey Haim and his sister there. The brother sister dynamic there. Um, the one scene I keep putting up on the clips of the church scene. I thought that was dumb. That I didn't have much use for. But I think I'm on the record that I hate dream sequences, except for in Freddy Krueger, where the whole story is about dreams. I hate dream sequences in general in horror films because I feel it's a cheat. It's like, okay, I'm going to show you something really, really horrible. Oh, wait, it was just a dream. I hate that. It just bothers me. So I didn't really care for it here. But I do, again, I think the story's good. Unlike Deadtime Stories at the beginning, I thought this had a solid storyline. but I really had a big problem with the effects. I kind of wish they would have had more of the Lon Chaney Jr. look than what they had here. It felt to me like there was some place in Yugoslavia that had a theme park. They had a wolf for their mascot, and that's what they grabbed. And that's where I was like, come on, this thing just looks too cheap. But anyway, that's my take on it. I think we'll go to the grades. Let's hope that button works. There we go. And I am going to grade this a B-, which is better than average. And I would watch this again, no problem, but it isn't something I'm going to be seeking out. So that was Stephen King's Silver Bullet. I want to remind everybody here on otherworldlyculture.com, we have Dead on the Bases coming on Thursday. We have OWC Prime Cuts coming up on Friday. We're going to be watching the movie Bug. And we want to tell you about all the great stuff that's out on our website right now. Okay, and that's not going to work for me. There we go. Are you kidding me? You really are kidding me. Come on. Okay, for some reason, it went to the subscribe to the podcast link. There we go. All right, so we have reviews from the Crypt Shook that you put out there, right, Adam? Shudder Original?
Yeah, it's a new Shudder original that comes out Thursday. It's a social media thriller, really well done flick, so keep an eye out for it.
Okay, and we have a couple of the episodes of Dead on the Bases are out there. My review of Psycho 2, as I did Universally Loved on Psycho 2. Still a big fan of that movie. Horror Realm Radio, the last one you guys had that came out was Time Capsule Toys. That was a really good episode, by the way. And we got news and reviews and everything here. So lots of new stuff for you to go work your way through here on our website, and we invite you all to come out for that. An important thing to know is you can always click on the live show link, which I'm going to try here live. Let's see if that works. And you can always see countdowns to the next show. You can see Dead on Movie Reviews. The countdown disappeared because the show is live right now. And, of course, I can't show you this right now. But we have our chat box is right there ready for you. But if you're ever wondering when the next live show is, we have our countdowns right there on the live show page. So come on out there and you can take a look at us anytime. Can you tell I'm trying to kill time to get us to the end of the show? Anybody notice that?
How long do we go?
Actually, I think we're close enough, so we're gonna get this closed up here.
I got stuff I can talk about.
Go ahead. Tell us about what you're doing.
Oh, I'm not doing it. I was lying. I thought you would cut me off and say no, we're good.
What?
I do.
I always want to hear from you, my good friend Rich. Well, hey, actually, why don't we Horror Realm? What can you tell me that's going on with Horror Realm?
Well, let's go 3 pieces of Horror Realm. First of all, Horror Realm Radio. The next episode will have Buzz from Zombie Works, one of the vendors of Horror Realm. So another view from behind the table coming up.
Ooh.
He also has a really cool thing he does. The Cleveland Haunt Club. These people meet and talk about Halloween and how to make your yard even spookier. So we're going to be talking to him about that. And he has a haunted garage sale every year, which is very similar to the Horror Realm flea market, which will be taking place March 6th of this year. So coming up very soon. And we're doing everything we can to be COVID safe, but give some vendors a chance to make money and people to have a little bit of fun and hopefully not die. That's the main goal.
Right.
And then, of course, this November, 19th to the 21st, will be the Horror Realm Convention. We will hopefully be back to a fully functioning society, even if it's with masks on. And the guest list is coming together. I think you've probably seen the updates. Hopefully you're excited. And it'll be packed full of fun and nudity.
And people can check it out at horrorrealmcon.com, correct?
That is correct, I think.
Hey, I got that mesmerized. Sandy will correct us if I'm wrong.
Hopefully she doesn't correct us about the nudity thing, because I plan on that happening.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. We appreciate it. We'll keep the chat room on for a little bit while we're still awake here. Want to thank you all for coming out tonight. And a reminder, if you'd like to reach any of the panelists, just send us an email at our first name at otherworldlyculture.com. He's Rich at otherworldlyculture.com, Adam at otherworldlyculture.com. I'm Tim at otherworldlyculture.com. And until next time, when you aim at horror, make sure you are dead on. See you next time. Otherworldlyculture.com.
The next time I have to come in here, I'm cracking skulls.
If you watch this, you need to fucking pull your eyeballs out with a spoon and kill yourself.
Tell me when you're
Wars make
done
money
so I
with their
can
mouth,
turn
but
it
doesn't
on.
make it right. Maybe the whole thing is, people can change.